Back for another cleveland.com practice report from Ohio State football. I'm Nathan Baird. He is Stephen Means. Today we were talking to Ohio State offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson. We were talking to the tight ends. We didn't have a practice viewing window today. It was just interviews. But we did ask Kevin Wilson about some of the guys who were not at practice on Thursday or who were limited in practice on Thursday. The most important of which, I guess, would be Garrett Wilson. No relation to Kevin Wilson. But he was limited. He was working out on the side. I asked today, they think that's going to be a long-term thing. He said no, that it's just sort of a load management thing. They track now through the offseason how much these guys run, how much work they put in. Garrett Wilson had put in more than anybody else. So just a day, if there was anything, I don't know, there could have been a tweak, but mostly just backing him off. And that was kind of what we suspected might be the case. Same thing, it sounds like with Thayer Munford, who he described as being limited for a day or two. I don't know that I think either of those are going to be long-term significant problems.
Both of those make sense. I mean, obviously, because Garrett's going to play this year, and if he's had this much of a workload, why not give him a so-called off day on, practice 8? And then the same thing with Thayer Munford. He does have an injury history. So if it feels like in any way something might be flaring up, even if it's a 5% flare-up, you give him a break just because you know that's your starter, whether that's left tackle or left guard.
And I think I did see Tyreek Smith and Jerron Cage both walk through the Woody today. We don't know how much they were participating, but just the fact they were back in uniform at all was good because I did not see either of them on Thursday when we got that window. So, like I said, we talked to the tight ends today. A guy who drew a lot of interest was G. Scott. This was our first chance, I believe, to talk to him since this whole switch went down. I don't remember if we talked to him in the spring. So this was the first time we've talked to him since the position switch, going from receiver to tight end. He wasn't even officially listed as a tight end until preseason camp. He wants to get up to around 230, he said, for now, and then grow from there. He's listed around 225, so they are still trying to bulk him up. But I think everyone's intrigued by where he's going to go. And I think the important thing is whatever his size is. You know, Jeremy Ruckert called him one of the strongest guys on the team. Kevin Wilson said if you pulled a bench in right now and had him go out there, he might be able to outlift all of the guys in the tight end room. I think those things are important as far as him just having the foundation necessary to even make this move.
Yeah, the first thing I asked him when I walked over there is, why are you a tight end? Can you just take us through that? His answer was Richard Sherman actually came up with it and told his father. Obviously, he's got a relationship with Richard Sherman. He went into detail about his relationship with Larry Fitzgerald as well. But the point is he knows a lot of professional athletes. And Richard Sherman told his father he'd probably make a good tight end. And G. Scott thought about it, and then he came to the coaching staff, and they allowed him to do that. That's a guy who sees big picture. It's not, and it was not so much about the wide receiver room is crowded. It's more about, as you talked about with his weight, he couldn't stay under 215 pounds, so you might as well just fall completely into it and go be a tight end where you bring this top 100 wide receiver skill set into that room, and now the linebackers have to try to keep up with that, which I have a theory when I kind of asked Kevin Wilson about it. In a way that I could ask him, I just flat out went, could you recruit the position this way? Because if you look at it, none of these guys actually played tight end in high school. Even Jeremy Ruckert and Joe Royer were listed as tight ends, but Jeremy Ruckert had never put his hand in the dirt until he got here. I saw Joe Royer play. He was a wide receiver. He was a lot skinnier than he is now. So why not just do that? Cade Stover was playing linebacker, running back, everything else. Just go find a freak athlete, whether he's a wide receiver or a linebacker or anything in college, and make them tight ends. And he didn't say no.
Yeah, I think it's tricky because I think to do that you have to find guys with a very special skill set. You know, Jeremy Ruckert and Joe Royer and those guys, even if they were glorified receivers in high school, still were doing some tight endish things, more Ruckert than Royer potentially. I think with G. Scott, it's like there aren't that many guys who thread the needle on. He's got this kind of a weight foundation, like what you're talking about, that 215, that size, and then also the receiver skills. Like I think those things you don't find those in combination a lot. So it's hard to just go out and say you're going to do that, but I think it makes sense that when you have as much talent as Ohio State does, you can move guys around from a position of strength and not a position of weakness, if you understand. It's not like he was going to flame out as a receiver. He probably could have played receiver here long term, but they saw the potential of what they could do with him at tight end, and I think that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think the way that he bone structure, you kind of see it early on, but then also I like the way he described tight ends. You're not really great at one thing. You're just kind of good at all these little, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And so maybe it's not just a tight end. Maybe it's a linebacker in this class or a running back in that class. But finding guys who fit that mold where they might not be listed as a tight end, but they have all these good quality traits, even if they don't necessarily project out to be an elite player at whatever position they're currently classified as.
Ohio State has a closed scrimmage on Saturday that's going to be big as far as like helping determine a lot of depth chart things, we think, whether that's the quarterback position, whether that's how things are shaking out at running back, whether some things are going on defense with the linebacker room. I think Saturday is going to be a big day for that. Get the text. Sign up for the text, 614-350-3315. That's going to is a 2-week free trial, and it takes you pretty close to the start of the season, September 2nd at Minnesota. We'll be back here next week with a lot more intel from Ohio State football practice on cleveland.com/Buckeye Talk.